Week 1 of the college football season has come and gone, and boy, did it live up to the hype. Yesterday, I shared the 10 teams that impressed me the most from the opening weekend. Today, I'm going to be sharing my 10 most disappointing teams from this past weekend. These are the teams that I thought looked really bad or just didn't live up to the hype. Before we get to today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to the channel. If you love college football content like this, then this is definitely the place for you. Also, drop a comment down below and let me know who the most disappointing team was for you this weekend. It helps the algorithm of the video and helps share it with more college football fans. Plus, I'd love to see which teams you thought stood out. If there are any other college football videos you'd like to see similar to this, drop a comment down below and it very well could turn into my next video. Again, these are in no particular order, these are just the 10 teams that disappointed me the most. We're going to start on Friday night with North Carolina, the number 10 team in the country. I myself was very high on the Tar Heels this season. I thought they potentially could be a threat for the college football playoff, and I had Sam Howell as my Heisman frontrunner. Now, obviously a lot can still happen the rest of the season, but yeah, those two takes aren't looking the best right now. Virginia Tech, they just look like the better team from beginning to end. I get that North Carolina lost a lot of talent this offseason, but they just looked overmatched on every front. Sam Howell had an awful game as he completed 50% of his passes for only 200 yards and 3 interceptions. He looked nothing like the Sam Howell we've seen over the last few seasons. Again, I get it, he lost a lot of weapons on offense, but he just had no answer for this Virginia Tech defense. I will give most of the credit to Virginia Tech because they came ready to play. I had a lot of people in my comment section yesterday saying that the Hokies deserve to be in my top 10 for most impressive teams list, and I totally get that. They looked like the top 25 team on Friday night. Now, I'm not sure where North Carolina goes from here or how their season is going to play out, but talk about ruining your season and your Heisman chances before the season ever really could begin. Up next on this list is Clemson, who didn't even score a touchdown against Georgia. Granted, that defensive performance was one of the best I've seen in recent memory, but if you're the number 3 team in the country, how can you not even score a touchdown the entire game? Clemson's defense, though, they certainly weren't disappointing. They didn't even allow a touchdown. They allowed only 250 yards for the game. That should win you a game most of the time, but the only problem was they were facing a defense that performed much better. The Clemson offensive line didn't do any favors for DJ Uiagalelei. He threw for only 180 yards on 37 pass attempts. The offensive line allowed 7 sacks for the game, and it seemed like DJ Uiagalelei never had a chance. For the season, I expect the Tigers to win out, and they're still going to have a strong chance of reaching the college football playoff. But I wasn't expecting this kind of a showing for them. Then again, I gotta give major props to Georgia's amazing defense. Up next is Oklahoma, who nearly lost to Tulane. Being the number 2 team in the country and almost losing certainly isn't a good look, but it's even worse considering they were 31-point favorites while playing at home. After the game was tied at the end of the first quarter, Oklahoma jumped out to a 23-point lead at halftime. At that point, I expected them to run away with the game. However, Tulane hung around and cut the lead to within 5 in the final few minutes. They even had a chance to drive down the field and win the game. They came up just short on 4th down and turned it over. If you're the Sooners, this performance is unacceptable. Spencer Rattler did complete 30 of 39 passes for 200 yards and had 2 total touchdowns, but he also had 2 interceptions and couldn't just separate Oklahoma from Tulane. Now, I will give credit to Tulane because I think that they're going to have a decent team this season, and Michael Pratt is a very underrated quarterback. But this Oklahoma defense is certainly concerning moving forward, especially if they want to be in the playoff hunt. I feel like this game kind of flew under the radar, but Northern Iowa played Iowa State really close and almost beat them. The Cyclones were up by only 3 points at the end of the first half and through most of the second half as well. A field goal with 6 minutes left in the game gave them a 6-point lead, but the Panthers still had a chance to win the game. Brock Purdy had a very underwhelming debut to the season as he threw for under 200 yards with no touchdowns. Breece Hall, who many expect to be the best running back in the nation, ran for a not-so-nice 69 yards, averaging only 3 yards a carry. Many people, myself included, have the Cyclones as the Big 12 champion this season. I get it, this is only week 1, but this isn't an ideal way to kick off your most hyped season in the history of your program. This week's game between Ohio State and Oregon is going to be one of the best non-conference games of the season, and it looked as if the Ducks were looking ahead to that game during their matchup against Fresno State. The Ducks were trailing the Bulldogs midway through the 4th quarter. A field goal tied the game with 7 minutes to go, and a touchdown gave them the lead with 3 minutes left in the game. I like Fresno State a lot in the Mountain West this season, but no way should the Ducks have been struggling in this one. Oregon's the favorite to win the Pac-12 and potentially be in the hunt for a playoff spot, and they are having a tough time putting away the Bulldogs. I said it this offseason, and I'll say it again, but Anthony Brown as their quarterback really has me questioning whether or not this Ducks team can be legit. He threw for only 170 yards with a touchdown, and I just don't think he's good enough to get Oregon to where they want to be. I know Kayvon Thibodeau left the game, and hopefully his injury isn't going to be too serious because the Ducks desperately need him on defense. This weekend is going to be a very interesting matchup against Ohio State, as I think there's a strong chance Oregon can get blown out of the water. Before I get to my next 5 teams, if you could give this video a thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate it. It helps share the video with more college football fans, and it only takes a second to do. If you love defense, then this was the game for you. If you love offense, well, I sure hope you missed it. There was essentially no offense in the Wisconsin-Penn State game, mainly from the Badgers. Wisconsin was given a number 12 ranking to begin the season, and man, did they not look the part. I will give their defense credit though, as they held Penn State to under 300 yards and only 50 rushing yards. But if I were Wisconsin, I would be very concerned with Graham Mertz. I've never been too impressed with him, but what an awful performance he had. He threw for 180 yards and had 2 interceptions with no touchdowns. Again, I gotta give major credit to Penn State's defense because they looked incredible and they were the difference maker in the game. But I just don't see how Wisconsin's offense is gonna allow them to make a Big Ten push this season. Well, the most embarrassing loss of the week has to belong to the Pac-12. Who didn't see that coming? Washington, who was ranked number 20 to start the season, lost at home to Montana. Just when you thought the Pac-12 was going to be potentially turning a corner, this happens. The Huskies scored only 1 touchdown all game, which came on the very first drive. After that, they had 12 straight possessions without scoring anything. Dylan Morris was awful, as he completed 27 of 46 passes and had 3 interceptions. The rushing game was a non-factor, as they averaged just more than 2 yards a carry. Now, the Washington defense was solid and they did their part, but yeah, the offense being manhandled by Montana, yeah, I don't know what to tell you there. I mean, come on, how do you let an FCS opponent come into town and hold you to 12 straight scoreless possessions? Again, I don't want to disrespect the Montana Grizzlies, but man, is that embarrassing if you're Washington. Speaking of embarrassing, yeah, Vanderbilt, how's it going? They lost to East Tennessee State, an FCS opponent, by 20 points. I'm not even going to spend any time on this because of how sad it is, so I will say this. East Tennessee State, well done. Tip of my cap to you guys. You should be proud for going on the road and beating the crap out of an SEC opponent. That is amazing for your program. At this point, the only thing keeping Vanderbilt in the SEC is their baseball program, so at least that's only about 4 or 5 months away from starting. One of the best stories last season was the emergence of Indiana in the Big Ten. They've never been a competitive team, but last season was one of the best years in program history. There were a lot of expectations for them coming into the season, and they were ranked for the first time to begin the year since the late 1960s. Well, they looked like the Indiana team we've been used to, as they lost to Iowa by 4 touchdowns. Michael Penix Jr. was just awful, as he completed less than 50% of his passes and had 3 interceptions, 2 of which were returned for a touchdown. Nothing happened in the run game, as they got only 77 yards on 31 carries. Now, I will give Indiana's defense credit because they did their part. They allowed 300 yards and only allowed 2 touchdowns. Most game, that'll keep you in it until the very end. It was the 2 pick sixes that really cost them in this one. Ultimately, I think the Hoosiers are going to be just fine and bounce back. At least I hope so. But when this is the most hyped season since the 1960s, losing by 4 touchdowns in week 1 sure is a punch in the face. We're going to end this video with LSU because it looked like they might be more of the 2020 team than we originally thought. I think UCLA is going to be solid this season, so I don't think it's necessarily a bad loss, but this Tigers team looked nowhere close to being a top 25 team. And I think this might be the last time they're ranked all season. I just don't think Max Johnson is going to be the answer for them at quarterback this season. If he didn't have Kayshon Boutte, who knows how bad this offense truly would have looked. They probably wouldn't have even scored a touchdown. After a season in which their defense was historically bad, LSU's defense didn't impress at all. They allowed 38 points and nearly 500 total yards. From the second quarter on, UCLA was getting essentially anything they wanted, and LSU just couldn't stop them. Now, I wasn't expecting LSU to be back competing for a national championship this season, but I was expecting them to at least take a step forward compared to last season. But they did the opposite of that. Well, those were the 10 teams who disappointed me the most this weekend. Drop a comment down below and let me know which team let you down. Was there a team on here that I didn't even include? Let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. I'll be posting videos like this all week, so if you're a college football fan, then this is definitely the place for you. If there are any other college football videos you'd like to see similar to this, drop a comment down below and it very well could turn into my next video. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.